So here we are. Third day of transparency. And what do I want to share today or talk about today? Of course, whatever's alive in me, but been up a few hours. And it's kind of beautiful. I had a little meeting this morning and with Dara, and then we was doing a little bit of work, and I was reading a few bits, or play, I like to call it, play with purpose. And we do these dance intervals now, so like every half an hour if we're creatively working on something, and then we stop, set the alarm, and then have a dance. Just do 5 minutes of dance, or press-ups, push-ups, or breathing. I do the Wim Hof breathing exercise, which if I haven't shown you, I'll show you one of these days. But I'm just taking a walk now outside. So beautiful to take a walk in this crisp air, beautiful winter's day. So a few things that popped up today were a beautiful friend of mine, Asman Siep. Some of you might have seen, I did a talk with him on Simon on the Sofa a while ago now, some time ago, and he wrote a great poetry book called 100 Days of Earth, which is where he spoke to the nature and the moon and so on, and then just expressed himself. Yeah, a bit similar to what I'm doing here, expressed himself transparently with whatever came through him. And the book is beautiful. So he said to me, he asked me a question. He said, how is it being you at the moment? And so I thought I'd talk about that. How is it being me at the moment? So let's go for a little walk, shall we? I'll take you for a little walk while I tell you how it is being me. Because it may be relevant to how it is being you, it may not be. So I read today some words by Adi Shanti. You might have heard of him. It's not really his words, nobody's words. That's the funny part of it. And he talked about how everybody is addicted. People talk about them not being addicted because they're not on drugs or they don't believe themselves to have an addiction, but actually everybody's an addict of some kind. Which, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I noticed that. I noticed that in myself, and I noticed that in everybody that I meet. And then I notice it on the collective, and it's that we're ultimately addicted to suffering. How about that? And when I was, let's say, having one stage of awareness shifting, and one stage of awakening more and more to myself, I realized at the time I was addicted to fear. And fear was a real big part of my realization, because when I was younger, I was a criminal. Some of you know this, that tag, that label, but I was a professional, let's say professional burglar. So I used to burgle houses, and started from a young age. I started by shoplifting, and from shoplifting went to stealing from wherever really. I originally was stealing just chocolates and deodorants and things like that, and then it led to people wanting other things, so of course supply and demand, so you start stealing, and then that sort of continued. I just became stealing on my paper round, and then stealing from people's sheds and garages, and then it sort of moved up into houses, and then I was burgling houses and doing crime, just living on an estate with a group of people that were also criminals. And that was the environment that I started from sort of an early age, 16, 17. I mean, shoplifting much earlier, like 14, 15, and then 16, 17, 18 was doing more crime. And then in 18 hello. And in 18 I was sent after 2 different court cases, one for 9 ounces of marijuana, and then one for being pulled over in my car and having stolen electrical goods in the car, I was convicted on 2 cases. The first one got me community service and probation. Some of you might know that out there. Anybody that else is that explored in this dimension is. And then during that time, luckily that was at Crown Court. And then during that time, I was then sent to Magistrates Court for the crime of finding the stolen goods in my car. And the good thing about that was that in Magistrates Court, they can only give you a sentence of 12 months maximum. So based on the story that the court had given, and my solicitor had given, the judge was very lenient on me and just gave me a 3-month sentence, to which I only had to, I ended up being in a remand centre and spent literally about 9.5 weeks in the end. Then I got released. And of course that took me on a whole nother journey and inquiry, and in that time of being locked up for like 22 hours a day, that was really getting a time to reflect and decide, like, what is it that I want to do, and what environments am I in, what world am I in. And I made a decision that I didn't want to be in that world anymore. But of course, making that decision is one thing, implementing change and breaking the habits and addictions and so on was another. So that's why it brings me to telling you that I realized later in life, this is not until this is after I got out of those environments, got out of the crime, followed the society's humdrum, followed the invisible prison and the hamster wheel of dysfunction, and tried to become successful and make money and become an actor. And I became a personal trainer, a number of other jobs along the way. I've done so many jobs, it's unreal. And then, wanted to become an actor. And it wasn't until I was 30, maybe, moving sort of 28, 29, 30 years old, that I really started to understand fear and read more about fear and this whole psychological, understanding of fear and different concepts of fear and how fear is interpreted. And then that was really when I started writing morning pages, started doing daily journals, that I started to realise, well, actually, I'm addicted to fear. And when I looked back at my days as a criminal, I wondered what was the driving force, what was driving me, yeah. And now I look back and of course, I look back and go, oh, it's fear. And then when I heard this text this morning, and of course I've heard this before from different people and myself looking at my own suffering, is, so, fear and suffering, same thing. Doesn't matter the word you use. When you're in fear, you're suffering. And I'm not talking about the natural fear response that we have in our bodies. Like if a dog starts running at me savagely right now, I'm going to feel that. My adrenal glands are going to go off, the chemicals are going to go into my body, and I'm either going to fight that dog right here, or I'm going to run like crazy down that path, right? And I'm pretty certain, well, I can't say I would definitely run because the dogs are quite fast, but I can't answer what would happen. But put it this way, it would be fight or flight, yeah? So we have a natural fear mechanism in our body, yeah? The thing that helps us to survive and keeps us mostly away from danger. But this whole thing of being addicted to fear, it's just like you notice it once it's in the subconscious. Once you notice that, it's like, wow, oh my Lord. And then you start to look at, oh wow, yeah, actually we are all on some level addicted to fear and addicted to suffering, because look how we act, look how we function, look how we engage, look how we communicate, look at the sheer amount of violence that we perpetuate across the whole planet, to our own species and to all other species. So within that, what drives us has been this thought of mine for some days, and it's really, it was just perfect that it popped up again today, because a couple of days ago I was thinking about it, and then I created a different video. It's like what, I was asking Dara and asking myself one morning after meditation, what drives us? What drives us? What's driving me? What gets me out of bed in the morning? And let's take another walk, so you get to see a little bit of the river. What's driving me? What gets me out of bed in the morning? And what drives other people? Wow, big horse poop in the middle of the path. Can you see it? It's fresh. That's the real shit. And remember, You are the butt, not the poop. As Kyle Cease so beautifully says. So, oh shit. Don't get me started, because that's a whole nother thing about shit. The other day I was walking past this bench, just changing the subject, digressing for a moment. I was walking past this bench on my way from my walk, and guess what? There's like this plastic bag down there with obviously a dog pooing, right? And I'm like, isn't that funny? That this whole thing about picking up your dog's, your pet's poo, right? Because it goes out. You've seen this now, and this is so funny for me for years, because I notice it on the streets now. There's nowhere to put the poop, so we're told to pick the poop up. And what dog owners do is put the poop into a plastic bag, which doesn't biodegrade, and then leave it around for who? Is there like poo garbage people now that go around and pick up the poop? Maybe I'm like not informed because I don't have a dog. Maybe you just have to put it in a bag, leave it there, and then this like little dog and a truck comes around with a trailer. Dogs are pulling it, you know, like wolves or something, and then they pick up all the bags of poo, and then they take it somewhere and put it into the ground or something. I don't know. Is that happening out there? Please inform me if it is. Leave a comment if it is and tell me. Sorry if I'm misinformed to all you dog owners out there. But if you are a dog owner and you're putting your poop, please, why not just like take the poop, dig it in a hole? That's what dogs do, yeah? They used to didn't they dig holes and put the poo in the ground? Or like pick the poo up and take it home and put it in a compost bin, or I don't know, smoke it or something. Oh man, I've smoked some shit in my time. So, okay, moving on. So yeah, it was like, what drives us, right? What actually drives us? And this is just a question I wanted to post out there today, is what is actually driving you and what's driving me? So when I think about what's driving me and what it's like to be me right now, then what drives me is joy, yeah? But underneath that, I was thinking the other day as I had this experience where I was doing a laughing practice, and then I was crying, and I was crying for, yeah, I can't even remember, I didn't time it, but it was some time, and I haven't cried like that ever. I don't remember crying like that, especially not as let's say an older man. And hey, and I was crying for some time after this laughing practice that I do, and it was so beautiful. And I was laid on the floor and I thought, wow, like it was so much like sadness and I don't even want to label it, right? Because when you label it sadness or you label it anger, it's just energy was moving. Emotion, energy's emotion, right? Emotion, energy's emotion. And so energy was moving, but it was building up and it was stuck and it was here and coming to the top of my eyes, and then like through the laughing, it really activated the same part of the body that cries, because it's physiologically it activates the same place in the nervous system. And so I was able to really release for the first time properly that long ever, and it was such a beautiful experience. And so we do that laughing practice on our retreats, and me and Dara have been doing it for some time. And I think on one of the videos I explained, I don't know if you caught that video, but one of the videos I explained why we started doing that laughing practice. I won't go into it now, but I will explain it again another time, because Mark Itzler brought it to us, and it was like, you know, it was a retreat we did for 10 days. And so when I was crying, I realized that actually no, maybe there's underneath that, there's sadness, and let's just use these words, but there's like a real sadness and anger driving me, and that's also not a bad thing. But depending on where it's coming. So to some extent, you could say suffering is driving me. So am I addicted to suffering at the same time that suffering is driving me? That was a really awesome question to ask, because when I look out into the world and I see so much of the suffering that I just view in the world, and of course, that was the sort of quest that took me on in 2011 and 12 and 13, when I was watching so many documentaries that I thought, oh wow, I definitely don't want to contribute that, and I can also see how much of that is inside of me. So I'm going to start doing the cleaning and clean myself, and within that, hope, you know, trust that hope, and trust that that's my contribution to the world. So, you know, I will clean the, you know, the judgments and the blame and the shame and the guilt and the the illusion of separation and the violence and the aggression and the arrogance and the aspects that some call, and again, the ego has had a bad rep here. So I don't want to just say ego. Too many people in this sort of realm as we're moving and we awaken more and more just say ego, you've got to kill the ego. But you've got to understand the different parts of the ego and which part of the ego you might be wanting to bring healing to. So that part that is always wanting fights and separation and everything concerned about me and what can it get, and more for me is less for you, and this striving to be better and a success and all of that aspect of the ego has to die, because that aspect of the ego is the one that feeds off suffering and conflict and so so that's been a cleaning process for years, and still cleaning. Some come up the other day to be cleaned. The laughing brought it to be cleaned. So what it's like to be me at the moment is observing all the information that comes, listening to all the different people that I listen to, staying away from crazy mainstream media, let's say, that around news and all that sort of jazz, but knowing and trusting that what comes to me is what I'm supposed to, explore or look at, and some stuff not. Some stuff I just make a healthy discernment that this isn't for me. And then listening to lots of people, because I do that. I hold workshops and events, as most of you know. So I listen to a lot of people and I look for patterns in people's experience, and then just try to do the best I possibly can at being a transparent mirror so that we can dissolve ourselves, dissolve ourselves. That means it's not like I'm the one that's got the answers. I'm dissolving myself in the process with whoever's in the space. So when we create oh, beautiful, look at that. Wow, so nice. Beautiful. Nature, it's all happening. Yeah. So when I said, I create these retreats so that when we're all in the space, we can literally dissolve and drop away from all of the things that we've identified that are creating suffering and causing us harm. And then that really is my, it's not even mine, it's not mine, that's what I mean, there's no me, but it's the contribution, it's the love leading the way to what it is that I want to create and share with the world. At this time, bench to bench. So that's really a little bit about what it's like to be me. Wake up, I do morning practices, many different ones, like dancing and meditation and lovemaking and reflection and morning pages, different meditations, some guided, some just sometimes silent meditation, breath, always start with breath, always have a beautiful food I eat, and morning I have lemon water and smoothies and so on, and I don't do these things because I have to do them. Many of you out there won't do them, and you might be totally awesome and having an amazing life and feel so aligned to your truth and so on. It's all good, but this way I choose to live is always just about how is it enriching me and how is it enriching those I meet and the life that I live. How can I enrich life? I wrote this some time ago. Humans have seemed to, many of us, I mean, not everybody, many humans are just, they want to do good, they want to be kind, but the human species has mastered the art of killing. And I said, can we now master the art of living and giving? That was something that came up. So there you have it. that was some of the things on in my space, in my field today. Day 3 of transparency. I'll keep it there because it's 20 minutes. Thank you to everybody that's been watching the video so far. I hope they're benefiting you in some way. And if you have any questions, feel free to fire them over. I'm doing this 30 days of transparency for myself to just express, to connect. And I put it out there as a offering at this time as we dance through the confusion of our times, the transitions, the dropping away of identities and dropping away of structures that we've built up and found some sort of refuge in, but that as it more and more crumbles away, and so many people, I listen to so many different people, and there's nobody out there that's definitive on anything. That's that beautiful saying, we know what we know what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. So happy exploring in the unknown, because for me the unknown is the only place where anything really arises. So as I just embrace the unknown every day, willing to drop away, willing to surrender, willing anything that I think I know, willing for that to die, anything that I think I've got a handle on, willing for something different to come and show something else, because that's how nature does it, right? That's how the universe works. You think you've got a handle on something, or you think, yeah, this really works, and all of a sudden, boom, somebody comes and shows you a whole nother way of being, a whole nother way of seeing. So that's where we play, that's where we hang out, in the unknown. And then in that space, feeling all that is in the moment. And then there's this sense of real breath and real space. And in that space, there's a lot of gratitude and appreciation and love that just pours through, because it's like you've got yourself out of the way, and you've got all the filters out the way, and you're not attached to any of it. Of course, you're then playing in these different parts and listening to everyone's different opinions and beliefs and observing and witnessing, but you know that that's not who you are, and you're just witnessing. And of course, you then take part in some of it. That's how I roll. That might not be how anybody else rolls. All right, so I'm going to take a walk, finish my walk, and if you've walked with me today, then I appreciate that. Whatever you're choosing to do, be, do and have in your life, may you know that you're already enough, you're already whole. And this is really a miracle to be hanging out on this planet. I see myself as being very, very privileged, even though there's no me hanging out being privileged, but you get the point. This expression of life. The paradox, huh? That's another thing I'm in, hanging out in the paradox. The funky paradox.